So for today, let's take a quick tour of my shop. So I would say the number one tool in any shop is a bench vise. You cannot have a shop without a bench vise. This is an incredibly useful tool. This is my 9-inch skill bandsaw. I've had this for 4 or 5 years, I think. It does a pretty good job. The blade is the blades do wear out quickly because you can't really get very expensive blades for it, but it does do its purpose. It does serve its purpose. Okay, for my standard cordless drill, we have a Makita XPH10. I don't know if they make these anymore. It's a brushed model. LXT. It's lasted me 4.5 years, so I mean, it definitely is a nice tool. Yeah. And then we have my impact driver, which is a Makita BTD 142. This is an older model, also brushed, but for what I do, it's perfect. I don't need any super special speeds or anything like that. I'm running a 1.5 amp hour battery right now, although I can run 3 amp hours and I have 5 amp hours. So okay, so soldering, I have a Hakko 888D. I love this thing. This thing is great. Perfect for what I do. It's not inexpensive, but it does the job really well. Heats up super duper fast. I love that. Yeah, it got the interchangeable tips. Sponge stand when you put it in the back. You're already cleaning your tip there. I love it. Okay, new addition here. I got this for my birthday. This is a Makita XSS02. It's a 18 volt, 6.5 inch circular saw. I really like this thing. It's got a lot of power to it, and it does the job really, really well. And it has a fence and everything, so I've actually been getting really, really straight cuts with the fence. So yeah, I would highly recommend this, and I really, really like it. Okay, so one of my other more well-used tools is my angle grinder. This is a Harbor Freight Chicago Electric one, 4.5 inch, I think, but it works wonderfully. For my purposes, I've never had any problems with it. I think it's great. It's a little bit cheap, but it's never failed me. So these are another tool that I've been using a ton of lately. These are Variax. This is a 10 amp, and this is a 3.5 amp. Both work amazingly. This I've added recently, so we've got a industrial on-off switch, so it's spring-loaded in the off position, so you just have to give it a little bit of a tap to turn it off, and then I can switch between loads on this one. These are both Superior Electric, so these are not made anymore, and they are pretty much irreplaceable for me, because if you wanted to buy a new one of these, it'd be like $800. And here's the 3.75 amp. This one did not come with a case, so I built a wood case to go around it. Another tool that I use all the time are wire strippers. Of course, these are Klein Tools ones, of course. These are electrician grade. They are wonderful. These are automatic. I really, really like the automatic ones, especially for small stuff. They work amazingly. Yeah, you don't have to worry about trying to find the size because they're auto-adjusting. It's wonderful. And these are my manual ones. These are also Klein. but these are like one of the most common electrician used ones. So these I've had for probably 2 years, and they still going strong, and they work great. Hard as hell up here. They are so hard. So you're really not gonna screw up that edge. These are great. Okay, you can't talk electronics without talking components. So let's take a look at my components here. So we have 5-volt relays. These are for our Arduino. These are regular relays. There's a couple missing from the box that should be in there. Electrolytic capacitors, potentiometers, ICs, ceramic capacitors, large BJTs, small BJTs. BJTs are bipolar junction transistors. Arduino, batteries. These are NiCad ones in here, but I usually have some 18650s in there. Resistors, diodes. As you can see, there's LEDs in there because they do count as diodes, and then there's a small bridge rectifier. And these are, yeah, miscellaneous 3-pin components, so I have some triacs and some other things in there. So I think this is actually the first time I'll be showing this, but this is my tool, my roll-away toolbox. So I try to keep quite a bit of stuff in here. So I've got some hammers and stuff. These shotgun shells I got from summer camp, and I'm probably gonna make something from them. Got some screwdrivers and files. We've got all pliers and wrenches. This is mainly just electronic stuff. We've got our hand saws. And down here is where I keep the Variacs, but they're not in there right now. Over here in the corner, we got my router. It's in the table right now, but I can take it out of the table anytime I want. Yeah, and I gotta round over a bit in there right now for whatever I'm gonna, do. So we have my set of Sennheiser EW100 G2 lav mics. I have 3. One is somewhere else right now. You'll see it in a second. And I got an antenna splitter, so I really like these. They are great for you're trying to do like a video or what you want better audio for or whatever. This is one of 2 of my desks. This one's got just stuff on it right now because I haven't actually used this desk in a while. It's mainly just had stuff on it. And this is my other desk. Yes, it's a mess and I need to clean it. But I have done some of my electronic stuff here. This is where I've been doing it actually a lot lately. And some of my lock stuff as well, which I'll show you in a second. And this is the other lav mic. So if I do videos here, which I have done a couple times, then I've got one set up right here. So for lock stuff, we got my pinning kit here. Okay, now when you have a pinning kit this big, and this was I custom designed this because I really wanted something that I could have the pins that I always use in, because otherwise you're gonna have to buy one with just all the different things. So, I've also learned that it's much cheaper just to make your own pinning kit rather than buy one. So at the top I have all of my Schlage pins. These are Quickset. These are American and Master. They use the same type of pins, but they're a lot smaller than Schlage or Quickset. And then we have Schlage Master pins down here. So these are what you would use to master key things. And as you can see, I got a lot of 2s because when you master key things, 2s are what you use most. As well as I recently refilled on 5s because 5s you run out of the most. And I probably got a refill on 3s there. But here's another one of my lock bins. This contains all kinds of stuff. These are keys, and believe it or not, these are organized. So these are organized by brand and keyway. So let me show you a couple of these. So it's hard to hold the camera while doing this. These are SC4. So these are Schlage 6-pin is what that is. These are Westlock. It's a quick-set clone. Somebody gave me a ton of these guys. Those are Corbin Cat 15s. Can't even remember what they go to. They're for some key-to-like system. Let's see, what do we have here? These are Y1. So these are the original Yale keyway. Yes, these are Eagle and Wilson Bohannon. They use similar, or sometimes the same keyway. Let's see, what else? Yeah, that's about it. And then I've got some other locks, like this guy. I used to have the original combination tag for this guy, but it kind of fell apart. But these are nice because you got a code on the back, and you can actually put this into a database, and it will give you the combination. It's supposed to be a government classified document, but it isn't. Now that we're out of locks, let's talk one of the other things I do, which is my sound stuff. So this is my setup. We got amplifier. This runs some speakers outside. I've got a cable that goes out of the back of this rack and goes out and around the garage and goes to the other side and goes through the wall and outside. And then I got a graphic equalizer. I love this for getting everything fine-tuned. It works great. And a compressor. And this is the channel that I use down here. Oh, sorry. No. This is the channel I use, not that one. I use this channel here, so. Also for sound, in this box, which is locked, and I don't have my keys with me, but I'll tell you what's in here. In here is my Bluetooth transceiver, and my mixer, which does puts all that together, and then there's a snake that comes out of here and goes into the back of the rack and plugs into everything. Now some relatively new safety additions. So this is something that I added. I put this in myself. It was not very hard for me to do. Yeah, this is just a sub panel. It's a Square D Homeline sub panel, and in there, that breaker is a CAFCI, so combination arc fault, and GFCI, so ground fault circuit interrupter. And that's combined, and this does regular breaker functions as well. So it has a magnetic trip, so that means short circuit, and it has thermal trip, so that means that you're pulling too much current, but it's not enough to be a short circuit. Other safety addition. So this is a Furman PowerLink, and what this is actually controlling is we've got 6 boxes around the outside and in here, and this does its job of switching those on and off, and it's wired through the light circuit, because I can always remember to turn the lights off in here, but I can't ever remember to turn anything else off. Just how things go. So so there's one of the boxes over there on the bench, and they're all over the place, and so it'll just turn off all of my stuff once I leave, and I don't have to worry about, it starting a fire or anything. And then another safety addition is in this soldering iron, there is an Arduino and a relay, and so this is it's programmed so that after 10 minutes it shuts itself off, and I don't have to worry about leaving that on. Of course, you can't forget your CAD package, which is on this clipboard that I made, which has the clip up there at the top and on my paper. And then on the back, I've got these PVC pipes that hold pencils and pens and all that. One of the other things that I do is stuff with radios. So in this box is all of my radio stuff. So I use these Baofeng UB5R ones because they're cheap and they actually work really well. Then they actually put out their rated power, which is 5 watts, which is pretty good. And then I've got these analog models too. These just came back from camp, so yeah, they just came back from camp a couple weeks ago, so they're still kind of dusty and whatnot, so I still got to clean those up. And spare batteries for the UV5R, and some other ones. Got some Motorola Talk About ones, and down here I have some Retevis RT20s, which are really small profile, and I really like those. I've got an extendable antenna and 3 whip antennas, and some regular antennas, some earpieces, spare batteries, stubby antennas, pretty much anything you could want. Makita batteries, let's see what we have. Actually 4 5 amp hours, one is in use on the circular saw. And we got a dual gang charger, single gang, and a single gang. So, I do like to build some stuff out of wood. Of course, this path needs to be cleaned up, but that's not hard to do. In these 2 bins is all of my wood. All kinds of scraps, and actually a lot of people just kind of just give me scraps. But for the small stuff that I make, the scraps actually work perfectly. Because I can make anything I want out of these scraps. When you do electrical work, you cannot do without wire. So this is, I believe this is 4 gauge. So this is super duper thick stuff. Also, this is, because it came from my grandpa's shop and there's always oil and whatnot there, this is oil and gasoline resistant. Same with this stuff, except this is 12 gauge solid, and this is also oil and gasoline resistant. Gotta have your Romex for doing your regular work. Romex is great. And this is 14 gauge and this is 12 gauge. For small electronics, you can never have too many power adapters. Now, there's always a lot more in here, but they're being used in other places and whatnot, but I keep all my power supplies in here. Some more stuff up top. For lock stuff, there's always, it's always a good idea to have tons of tensioners. So I've got all of my tensioners right here. We got top of the keyway ones and bottom of the keyway ones. Then we have my hooks. So these are all from Southord. Some of these, that's a deep hook, and the rest of these are all short hooks. This is an unmodified one, and the 3 rest of these hooks are modified Southord short hooks that I've, ground down and made fit in more keyways. Then we have a Southord City Rake, and this is a bypass knife that I made. And we have a snake rake. Now, for handles, I've been using these Southord handles that you can buy to put on yourself, and I really like the feel of them. And then, of course, you got your warded stuff right here. So this is regular warded, and then these guys are will open any of the Master Lock warded ones, and these were specifically, I designed these to open the new Master Lock 22s, which I think I've explained before why they are necessary. So, another one of my more commonly used tools these days is my multimeter. This is a one from Harbor Freight, just like the other meters that I had. The only difference with this one is significantly more. This costs significantly more. I got this for the price that I got my other meters though for. I got this for 25 bucks, and it's usually like a $45, $50 meter. So I got a hell of a deal on that. And I really like it. I like that it's small. It's the size of my other meters that I got from there. Literally the digit is the exact same readout. My other meters were manual ranging. This is auto ranging, so I like that. We got voltage, AC, DC, hold, and I can do manual ranging if I want to. Temperature, Fahrenheit and Celsius. My last meter only did Celsius, which was a pain in my butt because I have to convert that. We've got ohm scale. I can also do manual ranging and hold. The NCV is non-contact voltage. I hate non-contact voltage testers because they could steer you wrong. The circuit could still be live, and you start working on it, and you could still get shocked. Even though the thing was reading that it's actually off, even though the circuit could still be on. So I would not trust it with my life. Diode check, audible continuity, microamps, milliamps, amps, and these guys. And the nice part is the milliamps and the microamps are on the same jack as the voltage, so you don't actually have to change leads unless you're trying to test in the amps mode. So yeah, I like this meter. It's also got a thermocouple that comes with it, and I usually keep alligator leads with it as well in the case. The other meter that I keep around here is this cheapo current clamp. It only does AC, but for the work that I do, it's pretty helpful to have around, just because if you want to test AC current without having to hook up anything extra, this is pretty nice. And it's pretty accurate. I've tested it against actually hooking it up, and it's about the same, so it's pretty accurate, which is nice. The only thing is it doesn't do DC on the clamp, so that sucks. But all I use it for is AC anyway, so yeah, I wish it did DC, but DC current clamp meters are ridiculously expensive. I got a drill press, and I like this thing. It matches the bandsaw, which is pretty nice. I got it used, but hardly used. And it's benchtop, so it's not too big, but for my purposes, it's fine. I also got this set of drill bits from my grandpa. These are very, very, very nice, and they're pretty expensive. So these are machinist grade drill bits, so they will last the rest of my life. Some of these are Cobalt, meaning that not the brand Cobalt from Lowe's with the K, Cobalt with the C, literally the metal Cobalt. And so those will last forever, and they drill some hardened steels, mostly mild steel. And I have other things that I might go at it with if I really want to drill hardened steel, and one of those might be real carbide masonry bits, because this is a fake masonry bit. That tip is the same steel as the shaft. A real masonry bit has tungsten carbide, which will actually drill concrete decently well, and it's not going to fall apart. And this will drill hardened steels, because tungsten carbide is extremely hard. It's just under the hardness of diamond. This is my compressor, and the drill press and this were bought secondhand, but I got them for Christmas, and I'm really liking it. It's helped me out a lot already. Got an outlet there I gotta fix, not mounted correctly, but this goes over to switch by the door so that I can turn this thing on and off without having to come over here and turn it on and off. And then the hose goes up and around to a 50-foot reel that I usually have two. I have two nozzles that I usually keep on there. And then for air tools, we got a pneumatic T50 staple gun, a 16 gauge finishing nailer, and a 18 gauge brad nailer. I use the brad nailer more than the finish nailer, just because the finish nailer is just for big stuff. I usually keep 2-inch nails in this and 1-inch nails in that. This is pretty deserving of its own video, but this is my power supply. It's a DC power supply. It's one of these little units that you can buy online. I really like it. I got the 30 volt 5 amp one, so 30 volts 5 amps. And the nice part about this is I have the switch here, so I can run this thing off of. They're not in there right now, but I can run it off of two Makita tool batteries, or run it off of AC, and there's a transformer in here, and the output is on the side. An actual transformer, not an actual switch mode supply, because I don't have a switch mode supply that'll put out that much power. But yeah, I really like this thing. It works really well. I've been using it to power my battery-powered soldering iron lately, just because the batteries for the thing is kind of dead. Another addition is this guy. which is a cord reel that can be pulled down. It'll lock, and I can just pull it back up, yank it again, and it goes right back up. And this is excellent compared to the other things that I had. I used to have extension cords that hung down, and then I had to coil it up and put it on the hook. This is just so much better. I think it's about 25 feet. I don't remember exactly. On this wall, which is a shelving unit, actually, I keep most of my cables. So I have a lot of audio stuff and then power stuff. So this is a 1/4-inch cable that I use to feed speakers, my speakers from my amplifier when I'm not running them out of the when I'm not running them the way that they are right now, where they're outside and they have their own outputs. This is an identical one that matches that. These are 4-pin XLR, and I use these for a variety of things, just because they're a good all-around connector, so they work pretty well. Here we have 2 XLR cables. We have a XLR male to 1/4-inch male, and we have an XLR female to 1/4-inch male, or vice versa. It's the same thing, so it could be 1/4-inch male to XLR female, or whatever. 2 more of the 1/4-inch XLR male to 1/4-inch male. Here's 2 more XLR cables. These are old and falling apart, so I got these secondhand for free. Most of the stuff was for free. This is a cable with banana connectors on it. I use this with my power supply and my Variac. I got an IC here. And then I like to keep a 15-foot and a 50-foot set. I keep 2. So I keep a 15 and a 15 and a 50 and a 15 and a 50. Got a magnet stick here to pick up any screws that are magnetic. This is a 25-foot 4-pin XLR. Got some small HOSA 1/4-inch cables. Another XLR. And this guy, which is a protection unit that I built. So it's just a breaker inside of a thing, and I got a lock on there right now, just to keep it locked out if I want to do a crappy lockout tagout. Speaking of protection units, this is my other protection unit. This took me a while to build. Got a wooden case. We got a 15-amp breaker, just like the other one, but the other one is only a 15-amp breaker. This power comes in, it goes through this key switch, into the breaker, into these guys, which do the, will switch on certain loads. This switch on the side here, when it's up, this, I can put a current clamp on it, it'll give me the current. If I flip it back off, it will stop giving me the current. Load A, B, so that's controlled by the switches, and then this is a 12-volt output if I want to turn on a relay. So the other thing that I want to show, just because I haven't been able to show it, and I've added some new stuff to it, but welding. I've been doing a lot of welding. I've done a lot of videos on that, but there are some things that I've added to this machine. So first of all, most people would probably say, why are you using this thing? This is referred to as like a buzz box welder, because it's just a giant transformer that buzzes all the time. Well, the reason is that this was free from my grandpa. He doesn't know how to weld, and he had it in his garage, so he was like, sure, you can take it. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. And while there are like super cheap inverter machines, I'm not in the market to buy one of those at the moment anyway. Most of the stuff in here is like I do with what I can. I haven't spent money in months. It's just whatever I get. I have spent money on a couple things though, but like decent money I haven't spent in months. So the first thing that I've done to upgrade this is this was the original power switch. I don't like this. This thing was annoying me. So I had these lying around. So this is an industrial power switch rated to take so is this switch. It's rated to take the current that this thing draws. But this thing I just think is better. I like it better.
and then this is just a bypass switch. So this you could turn on, and then it'll turn on. And then the other option I have is I have this foot switch that goes into the machine. And what this does is that it goes into a port on the back. This is a NEMA 620. So it's a 250 volts, 20 amp receptacle and plug. But I don't have any of these around my shop, so it's safe to use for this purpose. If I had the 4-pin thing that I'll show you in a second, I probably would have just done the 4-pin connector, but this is already in here, and I don't feel like covering up the hole, so I'm going to use this for however long. And then the power connector is set up so that it's removable, because that was my first complaint with this thing, is nothing was removable. You got to carry the thing with all these cables on it, which I hate. I hated. So it's much, and it's heavy. You got all these cables lagging all over the place. So yeah, this is much better. So the foot switch was originally making a breaking load, but I did not like that because it was screwing up the contacts in the foot switch. So instead, that actually signals to a relay now, as well as this input here. So if I want to have like a controller in my hand as well, I can plug it in here through a 4-pin cable, through 4-pin XLR cable, and it's also signals to the relay. Although some of those cables are actually rated to withstand the current that this will go. I think they have 14 gauge wire in them, those 4-pin XLR cables. So they were rated to take power and then some low voltage stuff down the same cable. But then the other thing that I upgraded was the stinger that came with this thing was a piece of garbage. It was this like aluminum thing, and then it had a thumb screw on the top. And the thumb screw would always loosen when I'm trying to weld, and it was just a pain in the butt. So I got a pair of vice grips that are, you got a hole tapped in it, and then I got a screw holding the wire down, and this works perfectly. It's not a real stinger, but it's close enough. And then I added these recently because that was one other thing, is those were hardwired. So instead, now I got these DINS style connectors. So they just go in like that. This one is actually shorted to the case because it would have taken me forever to make a hole to hold that. I would have had to file it out, and I did not have enough room to file it out with the transformer in there. So it's case ground, but it doesn't matter because it's 50 volts and it's isolated mains. So there's really nothing to worry about unless you touch the stinger. So this is the ground clamp, and this I upgraded recently because the ground clamp that came with it would just not fit around any of the materials that I was trying to go with. The only thing I liked about it is it clamped pipes a little bit better, but that's about it. So I bought this for like $1 at Home Depot, and it'll withstand the 50 amps that this thing will put out perfectly fine. It doesn't even get warm after like an hour of welding. So it's perfectly fine. And then the power cable, this is a 14 gauge IEC. I had to replace the power connector because the old one, the ground pin, broke off. The welding rods that'll run with it. So these are, they're from Harbor Freight, but I mean, whatever. They work just fine. These are 1/16 6013. This thing I tried to do 7018 on it. They don't make 7018s, and it probably would not hold it probably would not handle the 1/16 7018s anyway. But I tried 3/32 7018s with this machine. It just did not handle it. They would not arc at all. Well, they would arc, but they would not stay lit. And then for tougher stuff, I have 3/32 6013 electrodes. The machine struggles a little bit more with the 3/32, but it still welds perfectly fine. You just have to take it a little bit slower. And then my helmet, I was using for a while, welding goggles, like oxyacetylene goggles with a 10 shade in them. And yeah, get kind of sunburn faced and whatnot. So I was like, yeah, I need a new helmet. So of all the things, my mom decided to buy me a helmet. So this was $40, and I like it because it's the auto darkening. Regular the passive just I don't think I could go back to passive after using this. So, and then I keep it around a 10 shade, maybe 10.5. But yeah, 10 is the recommended usually for any type of welding. It's the minimum. This thing will go down to 9 for some reason. I guess for lighter stuff. But yeah, so that's the welder, and I like it. It's worked out pretty well. Maybe if I get a little bit more money on my hands, I might buy one of those inverter machines, just because this thing just doesn't have the power that I want it to have. And the inverter machines are so much lighter. This thing probably weighs like 20 pounds. Maybe a little less, but maybe 15, but still, that's pretty heavy for a machine that only puts out 50 amps. So, yeah. But, I mean, yeah, so it still works. And then my other problem with this is there's no variable amp control either. So, if you're trying to do something thin, you could forget it. You could try to angle your electrode or whatnot, but if it's super thin, you could forget it. You're not going to be able to get it to work. So, that's just how it goes most of the time. But, yeah, this thing, for right now, is perfect. And then I did give it a paint job, so I got this green stripe down the middle, and I used crappy masking tape, so that didn't work out. But, other than that, this thing, pretty good. I like it. So this thing may pop up in some of my videos. I was originally using this as a spot welder, but I got my hands on a really high-power microwave oven transformer, so I'm using that as a spot welder now, which is much better than using this. This is my toroidal transformer. So the toroidal here will do, it does all kinds of, it has a 36-volt output, I think? And a 24-volt output, and 36-volt will handle much more current than the 24-volt output. As you can see, it's gotten quite the current draw, because I was trying to use the 36-volt output to weld. And that didn't go very well, because it would get hot within 30 seconds or less. So I had to install a fan, and all this, and there's a 12-volt power supply that I have to install the fan. It's just much better what it is. So probably this will only be used for some high power AC, or if I need a transformer with a specific voltage for one thing in particular that's short term, or if I need to, this also has isolated mains. It has a output on it that outputs the same voltage as mains voltage, but it's isolated. So that's the other thing that this might be useful for. And this is my spot welder. So this is the microwave oven transformer. So these things, they're quite power hungry. Like I give it 120 volts, and it's immediately drawing 8 amps. So they've got a fairly low fairly low impedance there, so they use a lot of current. And then this is the fan that was inside of the microwave oven that I pulled it out of. And this helps to cool the windings at the moment. So I'll probably make a shroud and make a case for this at some point, but for right now, this is perfectly fine. Because the mains terminals are all cleaned up and whatnot, and I work around live mains all the time, so like I know how to be safe with that. This also does not have a regular plug on the end. This always goes into the Variac so that I can get variable power out of it. And then I've got my spot welding tips that I made myself, so they hold the wire, the super thick wire on one end, and then they use a 12-gauge copper wire on the other end as the electrode to actually do the welding with. Or I can actually use this itself, the holder itself. But yeah, this thing works decently well. I need to figure out how to make a mechanism that'll give me more pressure. Because if there's anything, I need more pressure with it, because these handheld ones just aren't going to work. They get too hot too fast. So I need a way to get the pressure, and then it'll spot weld the stuff together much easier. And lastly, let's get into audio. So this is a case, and it's holding... Let me undo the butterfly latch here. Da-da-da-da! A new mixer. New to me. This is fairly old. Also free, so that was nice. And this is doing all of the mixing now. And it gives me a lot more inputs, because this is a 20 mono channel and 2 stereo channel. We got 4 4 submasters. We've got the main fader, which I would prefer if it was stereo mono, but this is a Mackie, so it's mixed into one. Also, you can tell it's a Mackie is its trim, not gain, and everything is with a U and not a 0. Mackie calls it unity. Pretty much everybody else calls it 0. Yeah. Also on the faders, unity. Okay, let's go down to the rack here, and I'll power up the system. So everything runs properly. All of the labels down here are correct. So there's a couple more things that I need to add, but 1213 here goes to an external output outside of the garage here, so that if I want to plug in my small mixer and add some microphones and music input from out there, I can, and it'll go directly to this and then send it to the amplifier instead of sending it there. Here I've got an array of microphones. I don't think any are hooked up at the moment. And then my auxiliary comes in here, and that actually goes over to the auxiliary comes in there, and it doesn't. It's pre-fader set on the aux send to go to a digital effects, graphic equalizer, and a compressor, and then they return here. The compressor and the graphic EQ return here. So graphic EQ and the compressor. So those are into the sub insert. So these are actually sub faders here. And then 16 here. 16 is the digital effects return. So I only use the digital effects with microphones, not with music, just because it's not. You're never gonna hear it. There's not enough time for the effects to actually hear them. And then down here in the rack, pretty much similar equipment to what I've shown before. We have my Shure microphone receiver. Also, I mean, let me keep in mind, all of this equipment was given away to me for free. So like, it's not the best equipment. This is very old, but it works. So I like that. What we have is and then we have the digital effects up here. This is, yeah, this, I could see why I was given this one for free. Like, this sells for like $300 online, but the interface is horrible. This knob is the main control, and it's horrible. You go up, and it goes like 4 up, and then it wants to go back down. It's horrible, but I make it work. The graphic EQ, that's probably one of my favorites. I didn't even want to take this when I was originally offered it, but I was kind of like forced. They're like, you need to take it because we don't know what to do with it. Just take it apart if you want to. And then I tested it out, and I really like it. I noticed a problem though with this guy. Maybe I'll do a repair video at one point. I'll open it up and show you what the problem was. But this had I took it out one day, and I noticed that it was, because it was also making some weird sounds. I took it out one day, and I noticed that I heard something rattling around. And I found out when I opened it up that one of the rectifier caps had blown. So I put in a new capacitor, a new rectifier capacitor, took the whole thing apart, put it in, and it works way better now because it's actually, like, working. Up here is the compressor, so the channel that I'm using is over here, and then this one is not in use. But the only reason the lights are actually showing is actually because I just kind of like to see the lights. It's just kind of cool. So if I do it right, it'll actually do this weird sequence thing where it will keep extending out, and then keep going over and over and over again. Let's see if there we go. Now it's doing it. So it looks like there's a signal coming on, but there isn't. And then the amplifier. Same amplifier that I was using before. The wiring in this thing is excellent. So the power input, I'll shut it off real quick. The power input is through a twist lock connector. I think I snagged this from my grandpa. It was all rusted out, so I restored it and using it to power this. Then that goes into this power strip here that I kind of fixed up and painted, and it fits real well in here. So I've got 6 outlets on the front and 6 more in the back to power up everything. And this is a nice and thick extension cord, so it'll handle the current. Actually, this whole thing only draws about an amp, which I'm really surprised about. And then the way that this is wired is actually, I have a snake. That's it right here. So all of the inputs and whatnot come through the snake and go back up to the board, which is similar to my old setup. It's actually the same snake. But what's cool is down here, I have outputs for the amplifier down here on the front, so I don't actually have to plug it into the back. I just plug them into the front here. And then I have antennas for the receiver that I can mount on the front here, which is also awesome. And then this cable goes to the back and runs the outlets back there. And then right now you're hearing 2 fans. That's because the amplifier has its own 2 fans in it, and then there's another fan in the back that I added to get airflow through the whole thing so that it gets nothing overheats. Because the amplifier, the fans are kind of messed up. I'm gonna replace them at some point, but the fans are kind of messed up, so I have to. Sometimes it'll start and it makes a really weird sound, and then the fans aren't actually moving right. So the other fan is just there to make sure that the thing can still stay cool if the fans fail in the amplifier. And anything else that gets hot, it also gets nice and cool. And then I'm using a Bluetooth receiver for music that goes into the system. That's it for the audio. But yeah, some pretty cool upgrades on this.